On the topic of hurricane season, Tim, we've got this government shutdown, and going into the season, we were worried about the lack of funding for the NOAA, National Weather Service, FEMA, and now with the government shutdown, there's a possibility this could have some impacts as well. And we're going to dive into that a little bit this evening to see if there are going to be impacts. Ivan Rodriguez from CNN dove into this day and got to the bottom to see how FEMA and NOAA would be impacted by this current government shutdown.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the Federal Emergency Management Agency will remain open because they're deemed essential to the protection of lives and property, but employees will still feel the impact.
They're doing the work without pay, without an understanding of when the shutdown is going to end. Will they get that back pay eventually?
Chris Vigaski with WiscoNet says he hopes the shutdown is resolved quickly so it doesn't severely impact the livelihoods of employees. The Weather Forecasting Agency has less than 4,000 employees for the first time in decades. It lost more than 560 people to layoffs, early retirement incentives, and other programs aimed at shrinking the size of the federal government. The agency has enough staff to accurately predict tropical storms and hurricanes, says a NOAA official who spoke to CNN on the condition of anonymity for fear of retribution.
The question, of course, is for how long and what other supporting capabilities, if you will, might be compromised, especially with so many people being furloughed right now.
With some local NWS offices short-staffed, former NOAA Administrator Richard Spinrad worries about weather events happening simultaneously across the country.
What happens if we have another hurricane outbreak and some wildfires in the West, severe drought in the Midwest? All of a sudden, you're stretching that workforce so very thin with regard to providing those services across the country and for all of these different environmental hazards.
Oh, Ivan Rodriguez joins us right now. Ivan, thank you so much for joining us. It just seems like NOAA, and especially the Weather Service, has had to deal with short staffing. They've had to deal with funding cuts, layoffs, fork in the road, resignations. What did you find is the biggest concern that they have with the government shutdown?
Well, when I spoke with the NOAA administrator, he was telling me how he had spoken with former colleagues, and overall that they're just very concerned in terms of how long this government shutdown is going to last. Like a lot of federal workers, the main concern is, especially for NOAA and FEMA workers, that they're still working, but they're working without pay, and for a short amount of time that is doable for a lot of families. But the longer this goes on, they're really concerned for their own livelihoods in the end. And again, the NOAA administrator was mentioning how they're all meteorologists who want to get the forecasts as best as possible, and they're moving pieces across the board, really moving meteorologists across the country to those offices that needed them the most to try and fill those staffing gaps. But again, that can only go on for so long. And I thought it was really interesting, and the way he put it into perspective was, well, what happens when you do get all of different kinds of severe weather or different kinds of, as he mentioned, hazards across the country, for an agency that's already spread pretty thin.
And Ivan, how does this affect FEMA, and what would happen to the government's flood insurance in this case?
Well, in terms of FEMA, it's interesting because FEMA depends on the help from other federal agencies to respond to disasters. So furloughs elsewhere could throw a wrench into the whole operation, even if FEMA itself stays mostly intact. Now, inside FEMA, only disaster-related work would likely continue. The National Flood Insurance Program, that lapsed on September 30th. So FEMA won't issue any new policies, but they'll still offer payouts for valid claims with their available funds.
Yeah, well, that's just a lot of impacts there. Thank you so much, Ivan, for diving into this. It's definitely an important issue that we're going to be paying attention to, especially here in Western North Carolina with the cleanup from Helene as well. So thank you again, Ivan.